everybody. So good to see you. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you, appreciate that. You could clap if you wanted to. Now, you don't have to, but you could. Yeah, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate that. I am more than 6 feet away, like 9 feet away from everybody. So I'm taking my mask off. I'm being good. Don't get mad at me or call the cops. I am being good today, so I appreciate it. And I know some of you get mad when I put my mask on, but you know what? I live in New York State, and our governor literally comes down and closes business down if you don't do the distancing thing. So I will always do that. When I cannot, I will wear a mask because I care about my local businesses. And I'm in the local business. I am in the firing pin, right, which is a gun shop and range, both in Bergen. Hold on, we're in Genesee County, right? Genesee County. Look at me go. Genesee County. This is stop number, hold on, 55 now, I think. No, hold on, 54. I'm sorry, I think it's 54. 54 or so, or whatever it is. I've actually forgotten what stop it is now. It's 50 something out of my 62 stop full Sharpe tour across the state. I'm in this specific place for a very important reason. To show two things, two reasons. Reason number one, the Second Amendment matters. And reason number two, it doesn't matter if you own a gun, the Second Amendment still matters. So part number one, Second Amendment matters. The Second Amendment matters. The SAFE Act is a bad idea in New York State. For those who don't know, the SAFE Act was actually an act that was put out in 2013. That the goal was to make sure we stop mass shootings in schools. I would ask most people in New York State, great, where was the mass shooting in New York State schools? There was none. It was in Connecticut. In Connecticut, they had a mass school shooting. It was Sandy Hook, and we then made the SAFE Act. We thought that'll stop it here. That was our goal. What did it actually do? The SAFE Act made millions of New Yorkers criminals overnight. People who had legally purchased a firearm and or firearm accessory were all of a sudden criminals overnight. Here's the worst part. They were, because they purchased legally, they were now felons, and because of New York State law, anything to do with a gun makes you a violent felon. They were now violent felons overnight. That's what actually happened in New York State. It actually made people who were law-abiding citizens, millions of them, violent felons overnight. We did something more. You might say, well, then, Larry, these evil people who own these evil weapons should hand them over, or you might believe that. Okay, maybe you do. What it also did is it allowed our medical community to now become part of a secret state police. Our medical community was required, and still to this day, to report any type of medical issue for anybody so that state troopers can come by and take the firearms. This literally happens. Someone's in a car accident. They get pulled in the emergency room. The nurse says, how do you feel? He says, oh, I feel so bad. I just want to die. The nurse writes suicidal. 2 days later, state troopers come by, take his firearms. Take his firearms because he was in a car accident. We might say, well, Larry, that's one issue. Does it really matter? First off, that happens all over the state. But not just that. Now people know that. So gun owners now know that. You're asking gun owners to not get mental help when they need mental help. Is that what we actually want? Because that's what we've done. So now if there is a gun owner who actually does have a mental health issue, who requires help, they don't want to go because now they lose their firearms. And worst of all of that, that affects our veterans more than anybody else. Veterans are more likely to actually own firearms and more likely to have mental health issues because of TBI and PTSD. So they're more apt. So now we're affecting our veterans more than anything. This is what is wrong with the SAFE Act. It's what's wrong with the idea of let's just take the guns. Let's just pass laws. If you just pass laws, you end up hurting people for no issue. Where are all the school shootings in New York State? There weren't any. There aren't any. Where are they now? There weren't any before the SAFE Act. And there aren't any now. This was just virtual signaling that winds up hurting people who don't need to be hurt. You could instead simply say what we always say. If you see something, say something. If you see someone who you think is doing something that is dangerous, if someone's threatening with somebody, you can still report them. The cops will still act. If some guy yells and screams and says, I'm gonna go kill my ex-wife or whatever, tell the cops you should do that. And we do that already. SAFE Act was not required. All it did was hurt legal gun owners. All it did was make people who will have a problem now not want to get help. All it did was disproportionately hurt our veteran community. This is not the answer. This is why I'm here. It does matter. But more importantly, the Second Amendment in general, it matters. You should be able to defend yourself how you want to defend yourself. I'm going to give you an interesting story real fast if I could. People ask if I'm pro-gun. Duane and I'm not going to come up in a second. You can see his cool sign right here. Duane and I were talking about this, either being pro-gun or pro-2A. And I said, well, I'm pro-2A. One of the reasons why I bring this up is I'm pro-defend yourself the way you want to defend yourself. I don't own a firearm. I live in New York City. I'm asking to go to jail if I own a firearm in New York City. The law's so stringent. I'm asking to go to jail. But it doesn't mean I don't want you to defend yourself any way you see fit. Libertarian Party is all about not don't tread on me, don't tread on anyone. Everyone's rights matter all the time. And your right to defend yourself matters. Whether I decide to defend myself that way or not is irrelevant. And the story I'll tell you is about a woman I met many years ago, probably 20 years ago now, maybe 15 years ago. It was a while ago. She was a teacher, and she was a total pacifist. She said, I would never own a gun. I would never use violence ever, no matter what. And of course, in this group of people were talking, someone said, well, what if you were about to be raped? You want a gun then, right? Of course, that question. And she answered honestly. She said, no, I was already in this situation. I was already there. In this situation, I talked my way out, and I would do it again. And this is what she said. She said, if I couldn't talk my way out, then I'd rather accept the consequences. I would never want to use violence. And so I said, would you stop a woman from defending herself any way she wants? Would you stop someone else from having a gun? She said, no. You should live your values. That's libertarian. That's libertarian. She decided to defend herself in her way. You decided to defend yourself in your way. You defend yourself in your way, whatever you feel is appropriate for your life, for your principles, for your values. Second Amendment, I am pro Second Amendment. Even if you want to be Bruce Lee and use nunchucks to defend yourself, fine. Go ahead. Your life, defend yourself your way, the way you see it. Now, I want to bring up somebody right now who is obviously pro-2A, but also pro-defending yourself. Someone's trying to make that change in New York State right now, if I could. He's running for state assembly. Running for state assembly here in Western New York, Mark Glogowski.
Thank you, Larry. When it comes to the Second Amendment, I have a totally different approach to it because the Second Amendment is not about your right to bear arms. You have a right to defend yourself, to defend your family and your neighbor if necessary, and your property. That's one of the unenumerated Ninth Amendment rights. You have a 10th Amendment power to use deadly force if necessary. If you read the 10th Amendment very closely, it says all the powers not granted to the 10th Amendment, nor restricted to the states by this Constitution, are left to the states respectively or to the people. That respectively points to areas in the Constitution where the states were given powers. Everything else was left to the people. You have a right to use deadly force. It's a 10th Amendment power that we kept for ourselves to defend ourselves. We have a right to defend ourselves. Here's the problem I face. I will not go down and get a license to carry a weapon to defend myself. Primarily because I will not acknowledge that the state has the right to infringe on the Second Amendment. Because if I get a license, I'm acknowledging the state has that right. But if I carry a weapon, I become a criminal instantly. Yes. So as a consequence, every law that the state has passed is denying me my Ninth Amendment rights and my 10th Amendment powers to defend myself and my family. I'm a victim. I'm a walking victim. You are too if you don't defend yourself and you don't have a way to defend yourself. And you certainly should not be going down and getting a permit, empowering the state to infringe on the Second Amendment. They are violating the Constitution. Everyone that signed that bill, to sign those bills that take your rights away to defend yourself, should be going to jail for violating the U.S. Constitution. But we have other problems in society, and I would like to point some of those out too. For instance, you might have seen, especially people in this district, have seen the $10 million check go to the city of Batavia.
Yes.
That is a hoax. The entire thing is a hoax. They took $300 out of the $10 million to start with because it cost the state theoretically $300,000 to basically write the proposal that was submitted on Batavia's behalf. One of the fellows said that Cuomo calls this the hunger wars for social welfare for businesses. The problem with that check is that it represents tax deferments, real estate taxes, sales taxes, mortgage taxes, any kind of tax they can come up with. It's going to be deferred. These companies are going to be created an elite group of people that do not have to pay taxes. Guess who's going to be paying the taxes that these people are not going to be paying? It's the residents of Genesee County. Basically, this $10 million represents a transfer of the tax burden from these businesses to you. And let's face it, the city of Batavia is talking about an 87% property tax hike.
Oh, yes.
That's probably related in some fashion to this $10 million of tax grants. And if you look at all the other grants that came into Batavia, somebody's got to pick up the tab for those. And it's happening all across the state. This program from Cuomo, the Develop Downtown Initiative, is going on for 4 years now, with 10 cities getting that Develop Downtown grant, tax deferred transfer. And every one of them is going to find that it's nothing more than a transfer of taxes from elite groups of people that probably donate very heavily to the incumbents to you, the residents. I would like to put an end to that. I believe we need to stop the crony capitalism.
Yes.
We need to stop the social welfare to businesses.
Yes.
If government got out of the business of trying to promote private enterprise, I would believe private investors would come in and fund any project that's worthwhile doing, and it won't cost you a penny. We need to have you keep your funds. We need to end the real estate tax, which is nothing more than the state pilfering your wealth year after year until it's gone. We need to end the income tax, because income tax is unconstitutional, and the Supreme Court has said so 5 times, but they also throw their hands up and say, we can't do anything about it. It's up to the Congress, and the people have to insist that the Congress change it. I will definitely fight the income tax for the state. I would definitely fight a transfer of the real estate tax to a sales tax, which is the only constitutional tax. And when you pay it, every time you pay a sales tax, you'll understand how expensive our government has become. So I'm out there. I would like to be your representative in the future. I would like to get into the assembly. My first task when I become an assembly person will be to address the districting of assembly and Senate lines in New York State. For 187 years, the assembly members of the assembly were appointed to counties. They had at least one, and some had 3 or 4, but every county had a representative. In 1964, U.S. Supreme Court said that's no longer legal. You can't have representation by district anymore. Well, ours wasn't strictly district. We had a proportional representation by population in the assembly. Well, we acknowledged that some of the people were supposed to be representing you, the people in the county. And since 1964, some of the most obvious changes, not just the fact that the power of the legislature has gone to 7 counties in New York City area, but upstate, you've seen 531 terminated. It should have gone to Niagara Falls. You've seen the Lake Ontario Parkway. The Lake Ontario Parkway was terminated just past Kendall. The problem with Lake Ontario Parkway today is that the last 12 miles are being considered perhaps a seasonable road, and maybe shut down and be kept around for a historical monument. The next 7 miles have already been downgraded with a smaller shoulder, and it was supposed to go all the way up to Niagara Falls. If I get in power, I will definitely make sure that the 531 and the Lake Ontario Parkway are put back on the table for completion purposes. So let's redistrict according to the New York State Constitution.
Yes.
let's get rid of the downstate control.
Yes.
And even the downstate people don't like this lack of county representation.
I'm one of them.
And those counties downstate are talking about leaving the state because there is no county representation. I think we need to address this issue, and what my opponent is proposing. One of his proposals is to set another layer of government between the counties and the state.
Ooh.
What a disaster that's going to be. The other one is to just rewrite the Constitution and get rid of one of the senators and just assign one of the senators to each county again. Well, that has already been considered by the U.S. Supreme Court for the Alabama case, and it was declared to be unconstitutional. So what is my opponent thinking? I mean, I don't think he actually understands what the Constitution says. So I don't want to see you rewarding this guy with another term of office for his inability to represent you.
Give us your website.
My website is www.Glogowski for assembly.
There we go.
Glogowski for assembly. All one word, .com.
All right.
Thank you. Larry?
Thank you so much. Oh, so glad that we have guys who are, did you notice what Mark was talking about? He was discussing specific issues, specific ideas, and specific solutions to fix these things that were, I know it's gonna sound crazy, that were constitutional. I know, crazy, right? That were actually constitutional. This is what our party's doing. It's looking at serious problems, recognizing the problems, just like Mark did, finding an actual answer to fix the actual problem that actually happens to be constitutional on top of it. I would ask you, is there a Democrat or Republican that is thinking that way, acting that way, or proposing that kind of solution? No, you can't find one. This is the glory of our party. This is the glory of our movement. So thank you, Mark. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you so much. So look, there's more people here I want to bring up. One more to be forward, and he's going to talk about, I think, guns. Am I right? Yeah. Guns. So I want to bring up one more piece, and that's the red flag law. There were a lot of people in New York State who thought we have to vote Republican because they're the only ones who support, the Second Amendment. That was their thought process. Yeah, they were wrong. That was absolutely not true. The Republicans and Democrats together passed the SAFE Act. Republicans and Democrats together offer red flag laws. That's how it works. And you might say, well, Larry, are you against red flag laws? Yes, I am on record during the debates in my gubernatorial election. I literally said on record, there is no need for red flag laws. Why? It goes back to what I said. If you see something, say something. Well, Larry, that's a pipe dream. That's not going to work. Well, no, I have evidence of that. I'm from New York City. That's what we do. There's no red flag laws in New York City to report terrorism. You don't have to report terrorism. There's no law. And people do it all the time. We stopped the Times Square bomber because someone saw something and said something. People, if you give them the right environment and an easy way of doing it, will absolutely do it. Just with red flag laws. If you see someone online threatening somebody with a gun, that's probable cause. Call the cops. Tell somebody. If you see the ex-spouse of someone stalking their home with a firearm, say something. Call the cops. It's the right answer. Do that. That makes sense. And guess what? People will do it. If you think someone may harm themselves, you know them. You know them. If you think someone, and sadly in New York State, it's often a farmer or a veteran or someone who's just lost their business or home, who's considering ending it all. They're going to hurt themselves or take their family with them. It does happen here or there. But if you know that person, you care about them, say something. And guess what? People do all the time. New York City is a city of 8 million people, and it happens all the time. But if I'm not mistaken, last year, over 2,000 people who saw something and said something. Over 2,000. We can do that here and it can work. But once you make it a red flag law, here's what you're doing. You're creating lists that people will go on. And you're now making the people who have to report, now they're liable and responsible. So now if that teacher doesn't say anything, they're in trouble. They're always going to take something. Now if that judge doesn't put you on a list, they're in trouble. You're always on a list. Now if that bureaucrats take you off a list, well, if they take you off, you do something, they're responsible. You never come off that list. So now you're putting a system to where the system is made to punish the individual who is not guilty just in case, because you never know. Who's never coming off that list because just in case, you never know. Our country was built on the idea that they would rather have a guilty person go free than put an innocent man in jail. Red flag laws fly in the face of that. Fly in the face of that. They fly in the face of due process. And worse than anything else, they literally prosecute thought crimes. Now that's where we are in America. Thought crimes. We think someone might put them in jail, take their rights away. And the worst part about this idea of being so aggressive against the Second Amendment of all these things is the people it actually hurts are good people. The bad guy still gets the gun. He still does it anyway. He still gets the gun. How do we know this? Because the drug war. The drug war. All the deaths in Chicago. All the deaths in the cities. The drug war. They still get guns and they're against the law. But who doesn't get a gun? The old lady or the old man who's stuck in a bad neighborhood who can't defend themselves. They can't afford to leave. So what do? They can only go out during the day. If they happen to get stuck out at night a bit later, they get hit over the head and get the stuff taken. The estranged spouse, usually a woman, a man gets a gun or physically beats her to death because she can't get a gun to defend herself. That's who's hurt. Every day in America, those of you know this, a woman is killed by her lover. This is America, not Somalia. It's America. A woman is killed by her lover every single day in this country. What if those women were armed? That's who's actually hurt. So I'm going to talk to you about this idea a bit more, but I'm going to stop right now. I'm going to bring up someone to talk about guns. The man himself, running for Congress in Western New York 27, someone who I hope you will support and look for, and look for, particularly if you live in Western New York, Duane Whitmer.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're going to talk about guns. We're in a gun store. Why not? Larry mentioned earlier, he stole this line from me that I'm pro-2A, not pro-gun.
I did steal it.
He did. So, and all you candidates out there, people watching, you can actually steal this with a $2,800 donation to the Whitmer campaign. That'd be great. We could all have it. But no, what I mean by this is actually I stole it from Steve Filano and 2A NYS. Don't tell him. If you're watching, Steve, I'm sorry. It's quite simple. Republicans are a party of pro-gun. And what that means is the FUD term, you can have a shotgun for home defense and probably a 1911 that you have on your pistol permit that you sometimes carry, probably off body, maybe you leave it in your glove box. And that's really it. You're afraid of Antifa coming into your street, your house, and you say things like, come and take it and shall not be infringed. And that's okay. You're allowed to do that. But what pro-2A means is that you have the right to defend yourself with what's the best option. And that's a Glock pistol with a standard capacity magazine, 17-round magazine. No 10-round safe back limit. No 1911 because it's cool. That's what you see your favorite John Wayne movie having. And when it comes to home defense, it's an AR pattern rifle with standard capacity 30-round magazine. That is it. The SAFE Act prevents you from doing both of those things. Republicans don't really care. They say they're pro-gun. And Chris Jacobs, the Republican candidate for NY27, got a beautiful, beautiful photo shoot at a gun range where he shot like a 22 for the first time. And everyone high-fived him like he was cool, and he's never outspending me. If he wants to come and we can have a shoot-off, we can do it. I'll bring my own gun, so I'll have to rent one because he doesn't own it. And that's fine, Chris. You don't have to own it. Just kind of weird. NRA gives you an 83 rating, which is like a B-. So when a Republican organization like the NRA rates you at an 83, and that's a B-, that's pretty much saying, yeah, we got to give you somewhat of a grade because, you know, you are a Republican and the NRA is nothing but a sham for the Republicans, but we're not happy. So enjoy that. That's terrible. But that's the difference between pro-gun and pro-2A. Pro-gun, it's kind of gun rights for me and none for you. And they're worried about certain people getting guns that may not look like you or I. With pro-2A, we don't care who you are. If you're able to pass a background check, no history of mental illness, you should be able to buy a pistol to protect yourself and buy a rifle to defend your home, defend your property. That's it. That's simple as that. The reason why this is important is because when we had a Republican president, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate, we still passed gun control. Bump stock ban happened.
Yep.
Recently, the ATF just banned the honey rifle, which is a SBR, which is gun control. So that's a thing that just happened under a Republican president. But NRA's nowhere to be found. I don't know if they're complaining about it. Probably not. They're probably asking for more donations because Nancy Pelosi's coming for your guns. Granted, the Republican president just enacted gun control. So my question is, if Republicans are so pro-gun, how come they've enacted more gun control in 4 years of Republican president than Obama did, who was supposedly coming to take your guns? It's kind of terrifying that they're lying to their voters. One good example of this is the Republicans did not pass concealed carry reciprocity, which is you have a pistol permit, it should be able to cross state lines. My college degree is useful all over the country. My licensing, my driver's license, my car insurance, health insurance, pretty much everything I have in my life, if I go across the imaginary line into PA, still valid. My pistol permit is not like that. And actually in New York State even, I can't go into New York City with my pistol. I would be treated like a violent. If I cross the imaginary border that Democrats set up between New York and New York City, I go from being Duane Whitmer, cool guy with a gun, to Duane Whitmer, dangerous felon. So pretty crazy. But that's what we're talking about when we say, start to make changes. You can keep voting for Republicans, and slowly but surely, they will infringe on your rights. They will strip your rights away, and they will put up a big stink like they're fighting for you while they take your rights away. Or you can vote for the Democrats, who will openly take your rights away. They're pretty open about that. Joe Biden doesn't want you to have an AR-14, though. He doesn't want an AR-15. Don't tell him. If no one tells him, maybe he won't know, but it's okay. Or you can vote for something and make the Republicans start to earn your vote. If you walk away and send the message to the Republican and Democratic Party that they have to hear your voice, they have to hear what you're saying, they have to listen to what you're saying and what you're doing, and make them earn your vote back, they're going to start to listen. They're going to start to change. They're going to start to steal our policies. They did it with marriage equality. They sometimes do it with anti-war when they're not in charge. They've done it with a lot of things. They will do it again, and that's okay. We're still impacting change. We're still impacting policy. So thank you guys for coming. I'm turning it back over to Larry. DuaneWhitmer.com. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Duane Whitmer for Congress on Facebook. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we're back to Larry.
Yes, we are rocking and rolling here again. Two great candidates, both talking about what we care about here in Western New York. And that's what it's most importantly about. It's about local. It's about what's happening here in your county, in your community. And I would ask all of you something very important. I hope people in New York are watching, but even if you're not, if you're in some other state watching, it's great. All of you here, I know because you showed up, so you care, so I appreciate that. Got to vote gold this year, guys. We have to vote gold this year. I cannot emphasize this enough. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian, vote gold this year. Right? On your ballot, some of you are going to have lots of Libertarians. Some of you aren't going to have that many. I get it. If you don't have that many, vote a couple red if you're a Republican and a couple gold. If you're a Democrat, vote a couple blue and a couple gold. No worries. All good. No matter what, all of you are going to have Joe Jorgensen on the ballot to vote for the presidential candidate. You all have that. So no excuse on that one, guys. You do that no matter what. And then look down the ballot and see who you can actually vote for to support your local candidates and support your local area. Here's what I do know for sure. What you heard us talking about today were local issues. Mark was hyper-local. He talked about what's happening in his local community, right? That's what I want, local. What are most of them talking about? I'm going to fight Trump or I'm going to support Trump, which is great. But how does that help your farm? How does it help your business? How does it help your family, your job, your kid getting a college degree? How does that help your kid being happy, finding anything? How does it help you find happiness? Just drive on a better road. Seriously, how does it help any of it? It doesn't. It's rhetoric and it yells, I love Trump or I hate Trump. Great. How's that going to help me? Libertarians are talking about actually helping you in your local communities. If you care about your local community, if it matters to you, this year, be bold, vote gold, and support local candidates. If you can support Mark, please head over to his website, support him. Support Duane, head over to his website, support him. Whatever the case may be bold, vote gold, support gold. We'll make real change. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you so much. And thank you all for watching. Thank you.